Today, we're going to discuss the sales tax and the simple interest. So let's get started with the lesson, shall we? But before we actually go to the formula and solution for sales tax and simple interest, we must first know the facts of sales tax. First fact is the selling price, or the sales. The sales or selling price are the total price of a good that are being bought by the customers. Next is the tax. Tax is an added charge to a price of a product, and that amount of money will be sent to the government. And then tax rate. This is the percentage of the tax. And last but not least, the sales tax. Sales tax are the tax that are being paid by the government when goods are sold to the customers. Now that we know the facts about sales tax, let us now talk about the formulas. So here are the formulas. Formula for sales tax and the formula for selling price. The formula for sales tax is original price multiplied to tax rate. And after that is the selling price. Selling price is original price plus sales tax. Now that we know the facts about sales tax, let us now talk about the formulas. Here are the formulas for sales tax and selling price. The formula for sales tax is original price multiplied to the tax rate. After that, we have the selling price. The formula for selling price is original price plus the sales tax. Please remember or be familiar with this formula. Now that we know all the formulas for selling price, sales tax, and tax rate, let us now try to solve this problem. Arnold bought a pair of leather shoes amounting to 3,295 pesos. And it had a sales tax of 12%. What is the actual price of the leather shoes? In this sentence, it is considered 3,295 as our original price. And 12% is considered as our tax rate. So what we are missing here is our sales tax and, of course, selling price. Why? Because there is a question here. And the question was, what is the actual price of the leather shoes? So it is asking the selling price. Now that we know that sales tax and selling price is missing from our problem, we can now finally solve the problem. So now that we know that sales tax is missing, we're obviously going to use the solution for finding the sales tax, which is original price multiplied to tax rate. In our problem, 3,295 pesos is our original price, and 12% is our tax rate. So to be more specific, it's 3,295 times 12%. But you see, 12% here is a percentage, so you cannot multiply these two just yet. You must turn 12% into a decimal. In order to turn this percentage into a decimal, we must move 2 decimal places to the left, which will be 1, 2, or 0.12. Now that we have turned 12% into 0.12, we can finally multiply these two numbers. So 3,295 times 0.12 is equivalent to 395.40 pesos. So our sales tax is 395.40 pesos. Here's the catch. This is not the end yet. Why? Because we still haven't found the selling price yet. Now that we're done with the sales tax, let us now try to find the selling price. In order to find the selling price, we obviously need to use the formula for the selling price. which is original price plus the sales tax. But to be more specific, it's 3,295 plus 395.40 pesos. The sum of these two numbers is 3,690.40 pesos. So, our selling price is 3,690.40 pesos. Now that we know the facts about sales tax, let us now go into the formulas. Here are the formulas for selling price, sales tax, and rate tax. The formula for selling price is original price plus sales tax. The formula for sales tax is original price multiplied to the selling price. And last but not the least, rate tax, which is sales tax divided by the original price. Please be familiar with these solutions.
Kira.
Now that we know the facts and the solutions for sales tax, let us now move on to the value-added tax. Value-added tax is a mandated tax, or it is imposed by the government towards the business establishments to collect 12% value-added tax and send it to the government once more. And 12% is the value-added tax of the Philippines. So this is the computation for value-added tax. To deduct the value-added tax, you must first multiply the amount sales to the value-added tax, or to 12%. After that, you minus the amount sale to the amount of the value-added tax. Now that we know the formula for value-added tax, let us try to answer this one example. Which is example number 1. The amount of the bag is 1,000 pesos. What is next? If you remember from our formula, the first thing you have to do is to multiply the amount sales, or the 1,000 pesos, to the value-added tax, or to be more precise, to 12%. So it would be 1,000 multiplied to 12%. But since 12% is a percentage, you cannot multiply these two just yet. You need to turn 12% into, well, a decimal. In order to do that, we once again need to move 2 decimal places to the left. So we'll start from here. Have to count. 1, 2. So the answer would be 0.12. Now that our 12% have been turned into 0.12, which is a decimal, we can finally multiply these two numbers. So 1,000 pesos times 0.12 is equivalent to 120 pesos. So that is the answer for our value-added tax. Second thing we need to solve is the vantable sales. But before we go to the solution, what is vantable sales? Vantable sales is the amount of the VAT deducted from the amount sale. Or to be more specific, it's 1,000 minus 120 pesos. So 1,000 minus 120 pesos is equivalent to 880 pesos. Now that we have found the answer for value-added tax and the vantable sales, we can finally add these two numbers together in order to get the total amount. Now that we have finally found the value-added tax and the vantable sales, we can finally add these two in order to get the total amount. So 880 pesos plus 120 pesos is equivalent to 1,000 pesos. So the total amount is 1,000 pesos. And that is how you compute for the value-added tax. But sometimes not all problems can be easy. For example, this example number 2. Amount of food is 290.75. The vegetable sales is 259.60. How did 290.75 turn into 259.60? Okay. So, the question is, why is this 290.75 if this is 259.60? Here is the reason why. In our farmer solutions, like I told you already, you must multiply the vegetable sales to the value added tax, or 12%. So it would be 259.60 times 12%, or to make it more easier, it's 259.60 times 0.12. If you multiply these two, the answer will be 31.15. After that, what you're going to do is instead of subtracting these two numbers, you are going to add. So 259.60 plus 31.15 is equivalent to 290.75. So that is how we got 290.75 as our amount sale. This can also be considered as our total amount. Now that we're finally done with sales tax, value added tax, we can finally move on to the simple interest. So here are the facts for simple interest. Simple interest is the amount of money that is charged from the money that is being borrowed. Next is the principal. Principal is the amount of money that you have borrowed. And the next thing is the interest rate. This is mostly found with a percent sign or in a decimal form. It would be like 5%, 8%, 10% interest, something like that. The next one is time. Time is how long you have borrowed that money from. And next is the amount. The amount is the sum of the interest and the principal. Now that we're finally done with the facts about simple interest, let us finally go with the formulas. Hooray! So, these are the abbreviations. I is for interest, P is for principal, A is for amount, R is for rate, and T is for time. So let us go with our first formula. The first formula is for I, or interest. Interest is equivalent to principal plus rate plus time. Our principal plus rate plus time. That is the solution for interest. Next we have is the formula for the amount, which is P plus P times R times T, or principal plus principal times rate times time. The next formula we have is for the principal. Principal is equivalent to I divided by R times T, or interest divided by rate times time. And on the fourth formula, we have a formula for T, or time. The formula for time is I over P times R, or to be more specific, it's interest divided by principal times rate. And last but not the least, we have the solution for rate. The formula for rate is I over P times T, or to be more specific, it's R equals to interest divided by principal times time. So these are the formulas for simple interest. Now Now that we know all the formulas for simple interest, let us now go and try to answer a problem. So this is our first problem. So the principal amount is 75,000 pesos. The interest rate is 8%. The due date is 3 years, and the interest amount and the amount due is missing. So what we are going to look for in this problem is the interest amount and also the amount due. Now that we know what are the facts about simple interest, let us now talk about the formulas. Here are the abbreviations. I is for interest, P is for principal, A is for amount, R is for rate, and T is for time. Let's go with our first formula. That is interest. Interest is equivalent to P times R times T, or principal times rate times time. The next formula is A, or amount. Amount is equivalent to P plus P times R times T, or principal plus principal times rate times time. The next one is our principal. Principal is equivalent to I over R times T, or interest divided by rate times time. The next one is time, which is I over P times R, or interest divided by principal times rate. The next one is R, or the rate, which is interest divided by principal times time. This one. So these are the formulas for simple interest. Please remember all these formulas. Now that we know the formulas for simple interest, let us now try to solve this problem. The principal is 75,000 pesos. The rate is 8% and the time is 3 years. The interest is missing and also the amount due. So we are going to find the interest and the amount due. Now that we know that we're going to look for interest and amount due, we're obviously going to use the formula in finding the interest. So the formula for interest is principal times rate times time. Or to be more specific, it's 75,000 times 0.08 times 3. When you multiply these together, the product will be 18,000. So the interest is 18,000. So now we're done with interest. Let us now focus on the amount due. The solution for amount due is principal plus interest. Or, to be more specific, 75,000 plus 18,000. The sum of these two numbers is 93,000. So, the amount due is 93,000. So the answer here is for this problem is interest is equivalent to 18,000, amount due 93,000, principal 75,000, rate 8%, and time 3 years. And that is all. Now that we're finally done with our first problem, which was interest, let us now go to our second problem. In our second problem, we have our principal, our rate, our time, amount, and amount due. Our principal is 425,000 pesos. Our rate is 14%, our time is 2 years, and our amount and amount due is missing. So we are going to look for our amount and amount due. Now that we're finally done with our first problem, which was principal, we can finally move on to our second problem. In our second problem, we have the principal, the rate, the time, the amount, and the amount due. Our principal is 425,000 pesos. Our rate is 14%. Our time is 2 years. And our amount and amount due is missing. So we are going to look for amount and amount due in this problem. Since we're going to look for the amount, we're obviously going to use the formula in finding the amount. The formula for finding the amount is principal plus principal times rate times time. In our problem, our principal was 425,000 pesos. Our rate was 14%, or if it's in decimal form, it's 0.14, and our time was 2 years. So it is 425,000 times 0.14 times 2. In order to solve this long solution, we must first multiply 425,000 to 0.14. The answer for these two numbers would be for 59,500. After that, we're now going to multiply it to 2. And the answer would be 119,000. After that, we must add 119,000 to 425,000 again. And the answer for these two numbers would be 544,000 pesos. So this is the answer for amount. It would be also considered as our amount due. Now that we're finally done with problem 2, which was the formula for amount, we can finally go to number 3. Our problem number 3 has the rate, the interest, the time, and the principal. Our rate is 10%, our interest is 20,000 pesos, our time is 3 years, and our principal is missing. So what we're going to look for is our principal in this problem. Since we are going to look for the principal, we're going to use the formula for principal. The formula for principal is interest divided by rate times time. In our problem, our interest was 20,000. Our rate was 10%, but since we changed it into decimal form, by moving 2 decimals to the left, it turned into 0.10, and then our time was 3 years. So to make it more specific, it's 20,000 divided by 0.10 times 3. So in order to solve this long solution, we must divide 20,000 and 0.10 first. 20,000 divided by 0.10 is equivalent to 200,000. So now that we were able to find 200,000, we are now going to multiply it to 3. So 200,000 times 3 is 600,000. So this will be our principal. So our principal is 600,000 pesos. So that is how you find the principal. Now that we're finally done with problem number 3, which was the solution for principal, we can finally go to problem number 4. In problem number 4, we have our principal, our rate, our interest, and our time. Our principal is 2 million pesos, our rate is 12%, our interest is 60,000 pesos, and our time is missing. So in this problem, we're going to find our time. Since we are going to look for the time, we're obviously going to use the formula in finding the time, which is interest divided by principal times rate. Or to be more specific, 60,000 divided by 2 million multiplied to 0.12. This is the extended version. But in order to turn this long solution way more shorter, we must first multiply 2 million to 0.12, which the answer would be 240,000. After that, we can finally divide 240,000 to our interest, which is 60,000. So 60,000 divided by 240,000 is equivalent to 0.25. So this is our time. But this is not the only equation that we can do. We can also lowest term these two numbers. So 60,000 and 240,000 can be lowest term to 30,000 and 120,000, which can be always also lowest term to 3 and 12, or even more lower, 1 over 4. So the answer for our time is 0.25 or 3/12 or 1/4 years. And that is how you find the time. Last but not the least, our problem number 5. In this problem, we have our principal, our time, our interest, and our rate. Our principal is 15,000 pesos. Our time is 6 months or 6/12 or 0.5. And our interest is 900 pesos and our rate is missing. So we are going to compute for our rate in this problem. Since we are going to find the interest rate or the rate, we're obviously going to use the formula for interest rate, which is interest divided by principal times time. Article specific, 900 divided by 15,000 times 0.5. In order to make this long solution shorter, we must multiply 15,000 and 0.5 first. So 15,000 times 0.5 is equivalent to 75,000. Now that we have 75,000, we can now divide this with our principal, which is 900. So 900 divided by 75,000 is 0.12. Now, since we are looking for the interest rate, an interest rate or the rate itself must be accompanied by a percent mark. So in order to turn this decimal into a percentage, we must move 2 decimal places to the right, which would be 1, 2. So it would be equivalent to 12%. So the answer for our rate is 0.12 or 12%. And that is how you find the rate. Okay guys, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys learned something today in math. I hope you guys learned something about sales tax and simple interest. And I hope to see you guys in the next episode.